Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the iPhoneography podcast. This is Monday, September the 9th, and it was iPhone 16 day. Everybody that is anybody knows anything about iPhone photography probably either watched the event or read up on it to see what was going on. And I am going to welcome in some folks here. And first, we'll bring in. I'm going to bring them in as they came in into the lounge, I guess you could say, the green room. We're going to bring in. Hopefully, I could do this without messing things up. Going to bring in Mr. Dwight Broeman. Where are we here? There we are. Well, you know what? I'm going to bring them all in because I don't know how to work this stupid thing. So we got Dwight Broeman, we got Joseph Ferreira, and we got Mr. Dave Podner. So Dave's working on getting his headphones working, so he's going to be muted for a bit. But hey, Dwight, you're early for your regular appearance, which is going to be maybe in a week or two. I'm not sure which yet, but welcome to the show, and everybody's familiar with Joseph Ferreira of Tiny Shutter alumni. Hey, Joe. And he's frozen.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. This is probably going to be somewhat of a train wreck, but I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to, once we're done here, I'm going to throw it out on the podcast player instead of getting our doing our regular release time, which would normally be Wednesday morning for me here in Canada, but because I just want everybody to get out, get this stuff as soon as they can, so they can get our thoughts on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the iPhone event, and you know what it's called? We call it an iPhone event, but it was an Apple event. They released a new Apple Watch. We're not going to talk about it. They released some new AirPods. We're not going to talk about them. But what they did release, what they were going to talk about, is an iPhone 16 and a 16 Pro and Pro Max. So let's see, where should we start? Well, we'll start with the iPhone 16. Dwight, did anything jump out at you with the iPhone 16 itself? Like whether it's the design, the colors, anything like that? Anything jump out towards you?
Not really. I noticed the colors and I noticed the 48 megapixel, main camera lens. I listened to some of the AI stuff, but honestly, Greg, I kind of plugged my ears until the Pro came out.
I think we're kind of all in that same boat. I see you nodding your head, Joe. What about you? Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they're going to have some features that both the Pro and the 16 itself have, because there are things that I didn't think we would ever see on an iPhone at our disposal. So I'm looking forward to talking about those. For the, I mean, battery size, or I mean the battery. That's a good thing, being able to have a lot of battery time, because when we start to really utilize these iPhones, we can drain them really quickly. So hopefully, as they move along, they're going to continue to improve on the battery life.
Yeah, I've been on the beta, I guess almost since it came out, really, on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and the battery life is not the best. But it's because it's a beta and they don't optimize for battery life when they're on the betas. So I'm looking forward to once the release candidate or whatever comes out for this thing, I'm looking forward to some better battery life for sure. And we lost Dave, but he'll be back. It's better battery life is always a good thing, especially for people who like us who take pictures and do a lot of video. And Joe, you're a big video guy. So so speaking of it, well, okay, let's not jump too far ahead here. So one of the things that stuck out to me was the fact that all of the 16s have this camera control button, and yes. I think that's I think that's a very welcome addition to the iPhone. It's capacitive, so it doesn't physically move, but it's got taptic feedback and or a taptic engine for haptic feedback. I don't know why they have two different names there, but I guess it's two different meanings, whatever. Anyway, and I think with what it does, I think it's a real cool feature. You can not only just push it once to turn the camera on, but then you can push it again to take a picture basically right away, or you can tap it lightly or double tap it even to bring up other features. So what do you guys think of this? Is it a welcome addition to the iPhone?
Yeah, I think, Greg, I think it is for the majority of people, in my opinion. You and I have had some recent discussions relative to how we use our cameras. I've been primarily shooting in RAW for the last couple months, and until that capability is afforded to the main camera, I would only use that particular part of it during, low light situations where I'm using the native camera to take advantage of the deep fusion and stuff like that. But I think if they incorporate it into some of the third-party camera apps, I think it could be useful for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, having the feature of being able to turn your camera on right away, because there are many times where I'm somewhere and I'm like, oh man, there's this plane going by. It's already gone, but to be able to hit that button, because it's nice on the touch screen where you'll be able to have the camera and it pops up. But what happens is it doesn't always work that way. So having that extra, I was very intrigued by it, because being able to turn on the camera, that's great. Being able to use it to adjust your settings, I thought that was a great touch. And I think with this one, I want to say since probably the 4S, this is the first time they really thought about photographers in that way, of wanting to be able to have it at the touch and not, because people buy these phones, most people that have them, they'll take pictures with it, but they're not doing what we're doing. They're not looking at it as a serious phone. And the being able to have that feature on there, I think, is great.
Yeah. Dave, how's your headphones? Are you good?
I can hear you guys. I'm assuming you can hear me.
Yep, we can. Good.
Oh, okay, excellent. Perfect. Okay, so we fixed it. Yay! Thank you. Yay. Thank you for your patience, to everyone.
No worries. So what do you think of the camera capture? The camera.
I think it's a great idea. And I love the fact that it's on the non-pro model. Yeah. I think that's a big deal. The fact that just like with the 15 last year, where the action button was only on the Pro, they could have done that and said, well, this is a Pro feature. And instead of, they said just, it's everywhere. And including being able, it looks like you have to launch the third-party app first, like Halide. But once you launch that app, they can use that. Like I said, the slider, they even showed, on the zoom or, do the quick little double click to bring up additional options. That's great. I mean, they're kind of dipping their toe into, I hate to say regular camera, but regular camera work where you do have that hardware, even though it's not physically moving, and and when they mention it's a sapphire glass. Mm-hmm. So they didn't cheapen out on this. This is not like a piece of plastic. This is, that cost them a good amount of money to engineer and put in there and to make it work, especially, since it is touch sensitive. So I think that's a great idea. Yeah. And it looks like it's in a position where it will work vertical too.
Yeah, they actually mentioned that. Yeah, it'll work really well for either mm-hmm. orientation, and I think I think they must realize that there's enough people that take pictures with, non-pro phones that it's well worth putting in those phones. There's no reason why it shouldn't be there.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? The same goes with the action button. There's no reason why it couldn't be on the non-pro phones, but maybe it was just a way to get those phones to sell, and obviously they did, because I think the pro phones on the 15 line outsold the non-pro phones by a wide margin. So it'll be interesting to see how the sales numbers go with the 16 and the 16 Pro stuff. Screen size a little bit bigger this time for the Pro lineup, 0.2 of an inch, so a little less than 1/4 of an inch, but overall size didn't quite have to grow that big because the bezel is so narrow now. I find sometimes on my 15 Pro Max, it was the narrowest bezel to date. And sometimes I find that if I don't have the case on and I want to do something, whether it's like I'm in editing or something, if my fingers are just slightly touching the edge of the screen, then the rest of it becomes non-responsive until I open my grip a little bit. And it's a kind of a weird thing, but I wonder if they've built something into the edge of the screen to realize, okay, you're holding it, but you don't mean to be touching the screen, and then it'll still work. I don't know. But who knows? I think it's going to be an interesting thing to find out about how that works. But let's see. So the A18 chip in the iPhone 16. So here's something that kind of caught my eye too, was the AI stuff in that works with the camera in what they call visual intelligence. So in the video, they showed a guy taking a picture of a restaurant, and all of a sudden the thing pops up saying, what the hours were and the reviews and when you can make a reservation. I thought that was pretty cool. It's not necessarily photography related, but it's camera related. So what do you guys think of that?
I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, the use case for me, I think on that would be, I don't think it would be that often, but I think it's nice, and it kind of plays to what Joe was talking about earlier, being able to just reach into your pocket and hit that button, and boom, you've got that information at your hand. So,
yeah, I think it was a. I didn't really pay attention too much to the AI stuff. I'm more of, I want to make sure that I can do everything myself and be able to set up the shot the way I want it to, and the least amount of computer control, the better. And so for me, I'm not. Sometimes I want to go in and just turn some things off. I don't want any corrections. I want it to be as raw and gritty as possible, because that's just the way I like it. And so for me, I was listening to it, but I know there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's happening, and they gave a lot of options to be able to choose different looks and feels and all that. But still, I want to be the one that has that type of control.
Yeah. Kind of like what Dwight was saying about wanting to, like he shoots a lot of raw instead of relying on the photonic engine to do his processing. And he's got me doing it too. I've been taking a lot more raw photos lately and processing them, and I'm really, really happy with the outcome.
I'm still a JPEG guy.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone, because Dave is too. Dave's a live photo guy, so
even
though. No, go ahead, Dave.
About to say that may change, the live photo, but may change, because when we were at the ball game tonight, I was able to use Roost 15 and trying to use the Hive Max settings to get the highest quality. And because we were almost first row of the outfield, but we're still outfield. So we got a good amount of distance between us and home plate. A little over 100 meters for Greg. So, we'll keep it metric.
Just to remind everybody, you were at a Pittsburgh Pirates game in like a Major League Baseball game tonight. Yeah.
Yes.
Just in case people are wondering what kind of game you went to.
No, yeah. And even using the 5X, that still isn't quite long enough. I did have to do the horrible thing and use the digital zoom for 25X to try to zoom in on the actual batter. And it was splotchy, it was pixelated, but wasn't like, you could tell the player. So it definitely, yes, I would have loved if they would have said the Pro Max came with a 10X optical zoom, instead of keeping it at 5, but using the Hive Max, which kills the live photo, did give you that extra, the extra megapixels to get a little more clarity. So, right now, of course, I have a 13 Pro Max, so I don't have that option. So that's why I've been doing the live photo with Hive. Yeah, but
11.
Yeah. So, but upgrading to the 16 because I'm 2 months away from paying this off, and I just happened to do a quick little because the prices have not changed, and I know everyone talks about Apple tax, and the fact that was this 2-3 years in a row, they really haven't upped the prices. With the new technology and everything new they're adding, they're keeping the price is pretty much the same, which is pretty good. That if I do now through my carrier, if I do a 3-year deal, it costs me $5.53 a month with my trade-in.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, I mean, given the fact that, basically I'm paying $180 over 3 years for the actual phone itself on top of my plan, that's not bad.
Yeah. So did you say you were going to upgrade?
Well,
okay,
I'm gonna
wait. Save it for the end.
Okay. I would say if I upgrade,
because we're going to go around the table.
Right. But if I'm upgrading, I would wait until my current installment plan runs out. Because if I pay off early, I lose the credit. So so that right now, if I just let it go, I only pay like $12 over the next 2 months.
Yeah.
If I pay it off immediately, it's $66 that I would have to pay off immediately. So it's like, do I want to hold off and pay the $50 and just, instead of needing, because I don't need a phone per se. It would be nice to have it. But
you
it's
can
not
keep stealing roots until the time.
No, that too, yeah. That too, yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So the guys in the chat room are getting pretty talkative a little bit here. Let's see. We're going to show a comment from Will Newcomb. We're referring back to the camera button or the camera control button. Less finger smears on the screen. Hey, that is true. You don't have to worry about tapping to focus and then dragging your finger down to adjust the exposure. That's a welcome addition to the phone. So another comment that he had earlier was, why do they call the 1x lens or the main camera a fusion camera? Without going back and looking at it again, the best I can tell with this is they're going to allow the 48 megapixel shot, and then they're going to take the 12 megapixel binned shot, and combine them together so that because the pixel binning gathers light better, it will produce, I mean, with all their magic and everything else. And by the way, these I don't know about the A18, but the A18 Pro chip can do 35 billion computations per second. So kind of chew on that one for a minute. But when what they do is they put them together to produce, they use what they call this fusion. They put it together to produce a very, very good, clean, clear image. They used to, when the iPhone 7 Plus came out and portrait mode started, and they brought out portrait mode, they called that image fusion, I think it was, when they used the two cameras, the wide angle and the telephoto, together in combination to produce a portrait mode image. They used from what I gathered, from what I can remember, it was the central part of the wide camera, and then the whole telephoto lens, because the portrait modes back then were always like zoomed in, right? Like the telephoto camera, and they blended everything together with what they called image fusion. I think it was called image fusion, and that's how they made the portrait mode images, because you got your two different cameras producing that parallax segmentation mask, which would separate the background from the foreground, or the subject rather from the background. And it just got better over the years. It's just so much better. Like portrait mode now is just really, really good. So that's what this whole fusion thing is all about. It's using two different technologies, I guess you could say, and blending them together to produce the image. If anybody can explain it better than that, by all means, jump in here, because that's the best that I can remember. Like I say, I'll know better if I go back and read up on it again. Like I've got the Apple page open, but I'm too busy working the camera stuff to go back and read it. But
well, thanks for your opinion on that. I just thought they renamed it. I thought it was the same
no,
camera.
no, it was. It's definitely something that they've they've put in the 16 Pro, I think. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's in the just the 16 or not. So Will, that's the best I could do for now. But the more I learn about this, the more I can talk about it, the better explanation, I guess you could say, I'll have for it. But and Dale says about the camera control button, harder to mount to tripod. I don't think it will be, because it's flush. And as long as your tripod doesn't have something on it that's going to tap into it, then it should be fine. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I use a MagSafe for my tripod, so it just snaps in the back of the phone.
I really would like to get a tripod mount like that. Scott Baker, of course, he's obviously not with us tonight because he's out on the East Coast in Canada, and it would be it's 11:24 here, so it would be, I think, 1:24 in the morning for him. So he's not chiming in the chat room or anything. But he is dead against them. I think he said he had one and his phone fell off. It doesn't hold his phone very well. Whether that's a case issue or what, I'm not sure. But
I have a pretty good one. I'll send you the link to it. I've got a pretty good one. I've never had a problem with that.
Yeah, cool.
Now, Greg, I did double check, and the main camera, which is, like you said, they're calling it the Fusion camera, is they're calling it Fusion on the non-Pro 16s.
Oh,
so
okay.
it looks like the main camera is the same on the Pro and non-Pro. The difference camera-wise is the Pro having the 5x zoom and having the 48 megapixel ultra wide. So you can do macro on the regular 16, but now you can do 48 megapixel macros
on the
and
front,
ultra wide. Yeah, which I mean that should get you excited right there, being able to get all those megapixels for.
If
we were talking
the,
about that a little bit, right, Greg? We were talking about that because we're getting that right now with an external lens on the main.
but Dave's
camera.
referring to the macro itself, right? So 48
Right.
megapixel macro. It all depends on how processed it looks, right? If it doesn't look overly processed like it does now on the 14 and 15 Pros and stuff, like if it looks a lot cleaner, then it'll be great. But I still swear that the external lenses, whether it's reflex, moment, Sandmark, whoever, over the main camera for a macro work is far, far superior. Because up to now you got the 48 megapixel on the 14 and 15 Pros. But okay, so that in and of itself is amazing, but it's just so much clearer. The macro that you get out of the ultra wide is just so over processed in appearance, in my opinion. And I mean, it works in a pinch. It's great in a pinch, but if you're going to do some serious macro work, the lenses are the way to go for sure.
I was curious to see in their explanation, they said, "Oh, macro," and I'm looking at it, it's like, really, is it? Is it macro, or is it just really up close?
Yeah,
because the old trick of putting that little bead of water on the lens and being able to zoom in, and I think I don't know if I have my Olo clips around here, but I still have those for my 4S.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that company kind of went into hiatus when the pandemic hit, and they just never seemed to come back from it, which is a real shame because they were the first big guns in the game, like in the external lens game. But and Maurice says totally agree on the external lenses versus built-in. Almost never use the built-in. So. That's true. So something else just on the 16, and I think this is obviously true for the Pros as well, but spatial capture for the Vision Pro, you can do spatial capture for video and photo, which is pretty cool. Like for those who have the Vision Pro, because what it does is it uses both the wide and the ultra wide cameras in horizontal orientation, and it kind of like that portrait mode thing, right? It uses the two cameras to differentiate, front to back or farther away or closer up or whatever. And the other thing is that when you're shooting video, and Joe, you'll like this, it reduces the wind noise. So nothing bothers me more when I'm shooting a video outside and the wind picks up and you got that. I don't even want to do it with my microphone because I know it'll annoy people, but it's just that sound that the wind makes going across a microphone. It's just, and I don't have a dead cat filter or anything. So,
right. So there were two things that I noticed that I was thankful for and saw that they were really putting their efforts into the video. When I shoot video, I want to be able to choose which microphone, because there are many microphones that are on our cameras. Now there's the option of being able to go through and choose which audio recording that you want in your video. I thought that was brilliant. And it's about time because, typically we have a microphone down at the bottom where it's close to your mouth when you're holding it up to your to talk, or if you're holding it away, you have the front, but then you also have the back one also for when you're doing a video. And it's like, give us a choice. And when I saw that, I was like, yes. And you can either choose, I think, one or even all of them if you wanted to. So one of the apps that I used years ago, I think I still have it. I think it's called Double Take or something like that, where you could set your phone up and use the front camera on one person and the back camera on the other and have an interview where it records both videos, and then you can bring it in together and have basically a camera in between two people that gets both people at the same time. Is that a lot of memory you're using up? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have those options. Why not utilize them? And so now we're going to have that with audio. And audio is king. You can have a crappy picture and have audio, and it'd be fine. Reverse it. It's a terrible video. If it looks perfect but sounds awful, it's like the worst thing in the world. I would much rather have a terrible, just look at mine right now. I would much rather have a terrible video and have better audio. And I apologize to everybody because the camera that I'm using is low quality. This program won't let me use my camera, so I had to pick something. But if you have a good audio, that tends to make up for the bad video. The opposite's not true.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And no worries about the video. You're still coming through pretty decent. Your house looks fantastic.
I know. It's not my house.
It's not your house. Whose house are you in?
This is somebody else's house. Just don't tell them.
Yeah. So that, the fact that you can change that audio, after you do it after you shot the video.
That's cool.
Which is so cool. That's something to look forward to for anybody that gets these phones. So let's jump to the 16 Pros. Basically, they're the same phone now. They all have the same camera systems and everything else. The only difference now is the size. I'm sure the 16 Pro Max will probably have a little better battery life because they can fit a little bit bigger battery in there. They never did say what the battery sizes were, comparing one to the other. But I'm sure it'll be in a spec sheet somewhere. But one thing that they said about the Pros was they have advanced media features, and I should have wrote down what they meant by that. It had something to do with the chipset on the A18 Pro chip. I think it was something to do with, rendering video or something. I'm not sure, but we'll just forget I even wrote that one down. But again on the main camera, 48 megapixel fusion camera. Quad pixel, zero shutter lag. That's something interesting that they said too. Zero shutter lag on the Pros. So when you snap the button, you're taking the picture. A lot of third-party apps are. There's always been some shutter lag. I think in my experience of using, I have probably 10 different camera apps. I think Halide is the fastest, and
yes.
Pro Camera from Coco Logics is probably the second fastest.
I would agree.
But I've got, like I said, I've got all these other ones that they just don't seem to be as fast. Dwight, you've got some experience with Halide?
Yeah, it's instantaneous now for me, especially in RAW.
Yeah, because it's taken one frame and done, right? Mm-hmm. It's none of this buffering and all that stuff beforehand just to get ready for the shot. It's in RAW anyway. It's a one frame and done. So, it sounds like even with all the image processing that goes on in even ProRAW or JPEG or HEIF or whatever, it's going to be instant. So that's kind of good. Ultra wide, 48 megapixel. What's that, Joe?
I did find the battery, what they're saying for battery.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. So video playback for the Pro is up to 27 hours of video playback.
Oh, wow.
And then 33 hours for the Max. And then it drops with video playback for streaming from 27 to 22 and from 33 to 29 for the Max. And then audio playback, if you just wanted to listen to audio the whole time, you're looking at 85 hours and 105 hours for the Max. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Imagine being the guy to sit there and test those. I mean, I know they'd
hit play and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know who does it, but there is one person who actually does that. So they actually get like 13, 14 different cameras or different phones, and then just, okay, and we're going to start now. And he starts it, and he has a time lapse filmed, and the iPhone's always the longest. And it always beats whatever Apple says. Now, admittedly, he actually has it somehow doing things, not just playing video. But yeah, iPhone's always has the best battery life. So really don't expect that to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I say within a month, you're going to see, camera comparisons or phone comparisons, performance comparisons between the Pixel 9 Pro, the 16 Pro, and probably the whatever the latest Samsung is, that S24 Ultra, I guess. They seem to do that every year. So when these come out, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So yeah, 48 megapixel ultra wide f2.2. It's the main camera's f1.78, which is pretty good. So the f2.2 won't be too bad. I just want to bring Dale's comment up here. The iPhone 16 wide Astro. Get ready for Astro panos. You know what? The wide doesn't do terrible in Astro. It's like, I'm talking on the 15 Pro Max here. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. I'd say it's like a little above middle of the road. So with the 48 megapixel, with the binning that they can do now, I think that you're going to see a nice leap in Astro. Where, mind you, it'll only come out 12 megapixel, but I think you're going to see a nice leap in the quality of an Astro shot with the ultra wide. It'll definitely be interesting to see how that goes.
Do it on the selfie cam.
Yeah.
Oh, can I give a real quick tip for the selfie cam?
Yep.
So if you're doing a selfie and you're holding it out and you notice that your face is kind of crooked after you take the selfie, there's the Screw It app that you can go into and use the lens correction and just play with it. And then all of a sudden your head looks like you didn't sleep on one side for 3 years.
Yeah, that's a great app.
Yeah. So I recommend when you do a selfie with somebody, take a look and you'll see that your head will sometimes be a little elongated on one side. That app is good, especially for the lens correction.
Yeah, that is a good tip. I always hated doing, not that I do a lot of selfies, but I always hated doing them with that wide view like that, just because you just look so weird.
I look weird to begin with, but when you add the lens, it makes it even weirder.
Let's see here. Just looking at some of the comments again.
I found the chat.
Yeah, his comments in the chat. Will Newcomb, he's in China. Selling to a secondhand supplier gives him a better income than official trade-in. Oh, so yeah. So spoiler alert. Will said he wants to upgrade. It's been 4 years. He's on the 12 Pro Max. We're going to get into what we're going to do, whether we're going to trade or upgrade or not near the end of the show here. But if he deals with a secondhand supplier, he'll get a better deal than of trading it in right to Apple. So, hey, why not? I mean, even here where I live, I could, if I sold a phone privately, I'd get a better deal than what Apple would give me on a trade-in. The same thing goes with cars around here too. You get a better deal when you sell privately rather than trade one in. So,
absolutely.
So let's see what else I got. My notes here. The telephoto, yeah, same thing on both. So here's something that really pushed photographic styles. Has anybody used that in their phones if they're capable?
I haven't. I mean, I've tried it. That Noir filter, black and white Noir. Yeah, that's kind of fun to. Yeah, that's kind of fun to play with. I like the contrast in that. But Greg, I'm really into editing, so color grading for me is a crucial step that I'm constantly trying to learn and trying to get better at. I don't want the phone doing color grading for me. I want to be able to look at the image and put my own artistic eye to it and kind of play with it that way. And I think that's some of the benefits of working in Photoshop. It's kind of easier to move the colors around a little bit. But I think for the average person, that's going to be kind of fun to be able to do that. And I noticed also in the today that you can go into those and you can still kind of manipulate the colors within each of the photographic styles, which is kind of cool. I'll probably play with that and check it out. On the run, for a quick color grade, I think that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. And photographic styles as it is now, they're very limited with what you could do to them. But you can, change them to your liking a little bit. But you could only shoot in HEIF or maybe JPEG too, but I think it's HEIF for sure. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you can do Pro RAW in these photographic styles. At least Pro RAW. You're not going to be able to do RAW, obviously, but I wonder if you can at least do
it
Pro.
It doesn't really make sense, because if you want RAW, you don't to take something that's RAW and to bake in a style is almost counter.
You're no longer RAW.
That's no longer RAW. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why Pro RAW could be a possibility. And let's see, what was it now? I think it was when these photographic styles came out. That was kind of around the time, maybe First Light from Filmic Pro came out before that. But I asked Chris Cohen, who was the CTO, I think, at Filmic. I asked him do you think you could make First Light so that you can do some adjustments? You can get these different looks in First Light, and it's a really cool app. But I asked him if you could do this stuff and capture in Pro RAW, since it's a processed image, but with a raw background to it where you can actually manipulate it better than you can with a JPEG or a HEIF. And he works at Apple now in the camera department. And I generally don't contact him unless there's a problem, like when Line Gate came up with the 15 Pro Max, that you take a raw image and there's that line down the side of the frame. I asked him about that, and he put her through to the QA department, but it's gone now, so it's been repaired. But I wonder if this. I'm really curious to know if these photographic styles can work in Pro RAW or not.
Well, can I give you sort of a observation that I had from probably about 15 years ago? I have a 30D. Yeah, Canon 30D, and you can go into the presets of the camera, and I think you could do it with any of the new cameras now. But you can choose to do black and white, or you can do sepia tone. And for a while, I was doing that with my raw images. But when I pulled the images out of the camera and put them on my computer, all the raw images flipped from black and white and sepia tone to color.
Okay.
Interesting.
And so what it did was it went to its natural state. It recognized that it was done in black and white or sepia tone. And so the JPEG image of it was black and white and sepia. But the actual raw file went automatically back to the raw information that it captured.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of like Halide with their macro feature that they brought out a couple of years back. It shot a macro, but it also shot a full raw. You also got a full raw image with it if you chose raw and JPEG. You didn't get a raw macro because there's so much processing going on to get that macro. So it's kind of the same thing, I guess. And so chances are you're not going to get. Well, you're definitely not getting a raw image, but you're probably not going to get a pro raw image out of this either. With these,
it's probably similar to the process 0 too, Greg. Right? I mean, it's you take the raw photo, and then as soon as you save it out as a JPEG or a HEIC, then that's the process 0 image, and the raw image is still retained. So kind of along the same lines.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you know what, though? I tried to use, when they first came out, the photographic styles. The problem is, at least with the old ones, is they were baked in. So let's say you had a particular mood, and they were pretty flexible where you can okay, I want a particular mood with these photos. And then you would take it and it would have all the, everything graded. But then it was what else can I do with this photo? No, you're stuck with it because it's baked in. So now the fact that you can adjust this after the fact, this almost seems like, for lack of a better term, a super filter, or a preset in Lightroom where multiple things are hit at once, but it isn't as simple of just hit a button and then all the colors a particular shade, because it supposedly looks and says, oh, that skin tone, we do not want to, work on that. We want the skin tone to be true to life. So we're working on other things that may shade it and not just shade everything.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that you can do it after the fact, after you change it and change it back, I think more people will try it.
Yeah, you could do it with the live preview up, or you can do it after you're taking the photo. So that's it'll be interesting to see what people can do with that for sure. Will Newcomb says Lightroom Mobile converts a raw image edited in the photo app into a basic raw image when loaded. And actually in Lightroom Mobile you can take let's see, what am I thinking here? You can take a Pro RAW file, and you can actually dial down the processing that's on that Pro RAW file to get down to basically, it's basically a raw image, I guess. So you can take the photonic engine stuff off of it in Lightroom Mobile. The paid version, of course. You can't do it in the free version. But so that's kind of interesting. What else do I got?
Yeah, Greg, I need to experiment with that a little bit more. If I take a Pro RAW image and say I dial it down to about 40%, retain that 48 megapixels, and see how much of the processing that I can get off of it and still have something to work with. I still have to do that investigation, and I think that'll be worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm going to go a little off topic here. Speaking of ways you can trick things, you can actually, in Reflex, you can, and I don't know, it works in Pro RAW, I'm pretty sure. You can, they don't have the feature yet where you can go, like, in the Apple camera, for the main camera, you've got your 1x, 1.25x, 1.35x, or whatever those numbers are. You got your 24 millimeter normal view, then you've got 28 millimeter, 35 millimeter before you have to jump over the 2x. In reflex, you can actually, with ProRAW set to 48 megapixel, you can actually pinch to zoom a little bit, and as long as you don't go too far, you'll still get the maximum resolution of whatever that zoom level is. Like, it won't be 48, a full 48, because you're zooming a little bit on the sensor, but you can trick it so that you can get a little, a better quality image zoomed in a little bit. So you can almost kind of emulate that 28 and 35 millimeter type of focal length that you would get in the Apple camera app, but you can do it in reflex. You can't really. I don't know if it tells you what your actual focal length is in the outcome, because I tried it when I heard about it and I totally forgot about doing that. But that's just another trick that's possible in the camera system. Let's see here. Oh yeah, something else about the photographic styles. With the camera control button, you can go to your photographic styles, and then you can start sliding through them. And then when you find one you like, you can either take the picture, or you can make some adjustments to it before you take the picture, or do it after, or whatever. So that camera control button has yet another use.
And I think it's non-destructive, right, Greg? I think it's non-destructive too. I think you can change it. Possibly. Oh, yeah. Well, they didn't go over that in the Photos app. You can revert to original, I think.
Yeah. It's just like working on a JPEG, I guess. And the speed at which it does it is incredible. It is very responsive. So let's see here. My next thing is video cinematic slow-mo. That's that. Not just 4K 120, but they've got cinematic slow-mo, which is, everybody knows what cinematic mode is, where it's like portrait mode for video, but now you can do it in slow motion. And I thought that little vignette they showed was hilarious, with those two guys walking away from that building blowing up behind them. And then
why are we walking so
slow? I thought that was just brilliant. And what was it? What was it they said at the end? Something about, oh yeah, don't turn around; it spoils it.
Yeah. Don't flinch and don't turn around.
Yeah.
I like it. I like. So I don't do a whole lot of slow mo or anything like that, but what I can see that being a feature now that is more, I would say, user friendly. So I typically will shoot videos, and I probably need to change it, but I usually do it in 60 frames a second. And that gives you a good
baseline.
Sure.
For lack of better words.
Yeah, but I never really thought that maybe I can use it to slow down the video. But there are, outside of the effect, you can still take 1080p up to 240 frames per second and 4K up to 120 frames per second. Now that's a lot of memory. That's a lot of space. Mm-hmm. And I have tons of videos on my phone because I make videos every single week for my church and for other things like that. But the amount of stuff, if you were to take one of these 1 terabit cameras and go and create a movie, you can do it. And I have students that are doing photographs, but also some of them want to do promo videos. They want to do some pretty fun stuff, and they don't realize what they're carrying in their pocket. they can do those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful tool. So one thing that I'm curious about is if you do 4K 120, I wonder if the image will be kind of dark and motley a little bit, like it is it was with my 14 Pro Max. I think I've done it with my 15 Pro Max, and I think it was like it's because it has to use a faster shutter speed for each frame. I think that's why it doesn't show as well. Like it's a little darker.
Yeah.
But it's saying it's going to do 4K 120 in HDR. So
what does that look like?
A lot of, that's a lot of processing power. And if you in your iPhone, if you're I think everybody, even the 11, Joe, I think we can show like movies or whatever with videos in HDR. So
yeah,
imagine 4K 120 showing up like that. I think it's going to be quite.
If you have
good.
if you have external light sources, if you have good light, no problem. I think it'd be totally fine. If you're trying to do it inside in low light conditions, you're probably going to have problems. But I don't know until I get my hands on one of those what it's going to look like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to find out. What that's going to be like. So audio, 4 studio quality mics, they called them. It's going to have spatial audio capture, and I think that has something to do with the ability to select the audio in the video. Like after you've taken the video, you've got your standard, then you've got, kind of like voice isolation, whatever it is. But then the last one was cinematic audio, where it puts the voices front and center and everything else kind of. So imagine if you've got headphones on that can do spatial audio, the voices will be in the front channel. It's kind of like your 5.1 surround system, whatever, and the everything else will be in behind type of thing. That's how I think it's going to go. You got audio mix. You can adjust how it separates the background from the speech, and no. So this isn't photography related, but I thought this was cool enough that I wrote it down. In voice memos, you can do multi-track voice memos. I thought, wow. So the example they showed was somebody who was. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, yeah. So, go ahead and finish that, but I want to say something about the voice memo.
Well, just the example they used was a young woman who was trying to create a song, and she was singing it, and so she was playing the audio from the music back to her out of the speakers while she was recording the voice memo into the microphone, and somehow the microphone didn't pick up the audio from the speakers. It was crazy. It was like 2 separate tracks, and it showed on the screen, the waveforms, and you can see the music in the background and her voice in the foreground, 2 separate waveforms as they were going across the screen. I thought that was brilliant. So what was your thought there, Joe?
So voice memo is actually a really good app to be able to use for off-camera mic. If you have a couple of iPhones, you can set one near a subject and step back and set your camera up, and then you take the audio off of that one, merge it in together with the video, and you have some very good quality audio. So I did that with some students. I was teaching them how to do video. I was teaching them how to do photography with their iPhones. So I took an iPhone 6S, set it on a, I think I had maybe some sort of a towel or something like that on the piano that one of the girls was playing. And I walked around the room and videoed her playing the piano. And what it did was it gave the illusion that I had microphones all there just picking up everything good, because I showed the before and after. The before was the audio that was coming through the phone that I was doing the video on. And you can hear it, and it wasn't that great. But then I switched it over and had the audio from the other phone that was sitting on the piano, and it just made it so much better. The quality went up. So if you have like an old iPhone, maybe a 6S or something else, you can take those and use the memo and record. Now with these, being able to have that quality mix, you could actually use your phone, and if you had some DSLR or maybe a higher quality video camera, you can use your phone as a very high quality microphone and get some, be able to capture some good audio.
Yeah. And if it has that feature where it blocks out the wind noise if you happen to be outside, that's even another bonus. Okay, so the last thing I had written down here was MagSafe, new cases for the camera control button. So yeah, they've got a couple of cases, I guess, that have MagSafe on the back, obviously, but they also, instead of having a cutout for that camera control button that you need to, that requires capacitive touch or whatever, these cases, I guess they have some kind of surface on the top and the bottom or whatever that transfers your touch through the button onto the actual button, so that you got your camera controls and everything else. And I thought that's pretty cool, because imagine case manufacturers trying to make a case that's going to work with that button. I was watching some YouTube videos before we came on tonight about people who, went to the event and all this stuff, and there was one who was showing these cases that were supposedly for the 16 Pro and Pro Max, or all the 16s or whatever they were, and they had a hole in the case for where that button is. And I guess that'll work, and that may be what everybody has to do if they can't figure out how to do it like Apple did it. But I guarantee you, Apple's got a lot of money invested in getting that to work. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the case market. I mean, you've got a lot of great case makers out there like Peak Design, Nomad, Moment and Reflex, and guys like that all generally have their own cases for their lenses and stuff. It'll be very interesting to see how that works. Now, has anybody, like Dave, have you heard of anything about third-party apps and this camera control button?
They basically, it sounded like you can use it, but they didn't go into much detail. So I don't know if it's a matter of you have to be in the app and then you can use it to zoom in or do a touch to zoom. That I'm not sure. I don't think there's a way to change the default and say when I click, open up this app instead of the Photos app. So I don't think there's any way around it, but I think once you're in it, people are working on designs to take advantage of that.
Yeah, okay. Joe, did you happen to catch that bit in? And I don't think it's an iPhone 16 thing. I think it's an iOS 18 thing. In fact, I know it is because I watched Zolotech's video about the release candidate for iOS 18. There's going to be a pause button in the video interface.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so
yeah,
you're videoing, and instead of hitting stop, you're cutting off the video. You can hit pause.
There's a pause button in the one corner. Yeah,
nice. My daughter would love that. My youngest, she takes her laptop and will hit pause, and then go do some, come back and record again. And I'm like, that's the longest video she's probably, and then I realize it's only 30 seconds long because she keeps hitting pause.
Mhm.
Well, that's good. I like that feature.
So are you talking when she's watching?
No, when she's making her own videos.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay.
on her laptop, she'll sit there and just kind of pretend like she's doing it for TikTok or whatever.
Oh, I see.
And
yeah.
'cause she watches too much YouTube. And then, she'll pause it. And I'm thinking, have you been recording for a half hour? And no, it's only been like 30 seconds because she would hit unpause and do her little thing and then hit pause again.
Yeah. So I can't believe it took all these years to bring that pause button to the video recording part of the camera system. I just can't believe it. I mean, you could do it in Filmic Pro and all that stuff, but
yeah. I have way too many separate clips that I have to piece together, for different things. But, I'm just used to that workflow. But now it's that sounds great.
yeah. So iOS 18, I believe, will be compatible as far back as the 10s Max. So hopefully that functionality will work in the 11 Pro that you have. Unless you're planning to upgrade.
Do we want to go into that now?
Yeah, let's wrap it up and we'll, because I think we've covered all the main things about the cameras and stuff. So we'll go around the table here. We'll start with you, Joe. And are you upgrading? And if so, what are you looking at?
I would love to upgrade. The 11 Pro is still a great phone. I have the 0.5 terabit, so the 512 gigabyte storage, and I'm using almost all of it. I'm continuously always having to take off videos and pictures. Mostly the bigger ones are the videos. I think I have. See, how many videos do I have in here? I have 1,700 videos.
Wow!
Just in my phone storage. And so you could imagine most of them are maybe 30 seconds long.
Yeah.
But still they add up. So you take 30 seconds, multiply that by 1,700. I would love to get one. I'm looking at maybe it would be if I was to upgrade, I'd want the 1 terabyte, and it'd be about $1,500. I would, through my carrier, it'd be a 3-year plan of 60. I think it's $60 a month.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can justify that, because when I looked at the trade-in for the 11, it was Apple only wanted $150 for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to. I don't want to give that away. So I'm going to probably say not this time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that 1,500 for you would be about probably 2,300, 2,400 for me for the 1 terabyte.
Yes.
By the time you pay the taxes and everything, it's like ridiculous.
Yes.
So Dave, the big reveal. What do you think?
Yeah. I can definitely. This is where size matters. So again, I'm going to wait till my phone's paid off, one way or the other, just because the price difference. I want to get my hands and see how big the 6.9 is.
Oh yeah.
Because as of now, there's, like we talked about, there's not really a difference between the two. It's literally the size of the screen, and it's now 6.3 inches, and I got 6.7. So the question is, how much? It's a lot cheaper if you go smaller. At what point does 6.9 inches become just unwieldy to deal with? Yeah. Especially since I run a lot. I have to be able to take my phone with me and run with it. even if I'm not taking photos, I still take my phone with me. So this thing's almost to the point it's too big for it to put on a. Even though I do have an armband, but if you look at the size of this thing and my arm, we got to make sure it's low enough. It's taking up almost my entire upper arm here. Just kind of squeezing it on here.
Yeah.
So eventually it's going to be like I have now, pretty much I just throw it in my pocket. But even though titanium may be a little bit lighter than stainless, at one point it's just going to be unwieldy. And can I live with 6.3 versus 6.9? And it depends on what kind of if the deals stay pretty much the same, which I think they will. It's still when this thing's paid off at the end of October. And if it only would cost me $5 a month for a 256 Pro Max, that's really tempting. That's really, really tempting.
So you'll know better, closer to the time then, basically.
Yeah. And I would say, and the 7, we all know the 17 rumors are already out there. And the big rumor I saw was that and I don't know if they could do this, if there's some kind of physics issue or not, but making the telephoto 48 megapixels.
That would be nice.
So, okay, yeah, and I'll start pumping iron to get a bigger arm. Yes.
For the audio listeners, we'll put a comment in the chat. Dave, get a bigger arm.
So you know what though, and like I said, the biggest thing is that the 5X being a 48 megapixels. So I don't know how much of a difference that would be per se. But other than that, I think next year the big rumor is the iPhone 17 Slim, for lack of a better term, or Air, which is going to be a high-end, ultra thin. Which I don't, and it's not even the high.
Basically, like an SE, but really thin.
Right. So I don't see. But I see it as everything I'm also reading is it's going to be a step back for everything else. So,
well, the 11's pretty thin.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the 16, going, how much more is that going to be? But the 11, it's like I don't want to let go of it.
Yeah, almost. It's understandable.
Yeah. Well, Dave, we'll let you sit on it for a bit. Because you said earlier today you were just on the fence about it, and it's a pretty big jump for sure. So maybe in a couple of episodes when you get your 13 Pro Max paid off, I'll hit you up again and see what you think.
Honestly, right. If you had to say it right now, I'd probably go for it, to be honest, because the cost will be minimal. If it did, if it was in reality $20-$30 a month, I would say I would hold off.
Yeah.
But if it's $5-$6 a month, yeah. And I mean, I just had the phone replaced because I was having issues with it, but it's still a 13 Pro Max. So I'll be losing all the AI features and some other additional stuff. So yeah, I could definitely see, sometime in early November, me purchasing it and then waiting for however long when I probably get the 256, because that's what I have now. And I'm only half full with storage.
Yeah. Okay, so Dwight, what say you?
Greg, I'm still on the fence. I historically have been on the iPhone upgrade program every year. I'm not in bars every night and spending money on all that stuff. So it is kind of my one vice. I will say that I'll be a late adopter, I think, on all of this AI stuff. I enjoy writing. I don't need Chat GTP, I don't think, to correct my stuff really at this point. I'm looking at this thing as I was really interested in what it was going to do differently from the 15 Pro Max. And I don't see a huge difference other than the camera button that we spoke about earlier and the 48 megapixels on the ultra wide. I'm on the fence, but I will tell you, I already have the loan approved, and I'm ready to go on launch day if you help convince me. Well, the other thing is, we're paying taxes again on it. On a new buy, it's a new moment case. It's there's a lot of expense to getting a new phone, and I think the benefit has to outweigh the cost this time for me. Overall, I wasn't overly impressed with this rollout as I thought I would be.
Yeah. And I had said I mentioned to you earlier that, there's been a lot of flack towards Apple on Threads and Twitter about this announcement today. People were disappointed and no, not going to upgrade, blah, blah, blah. So I put a comment out there, not answering to anybody, but just my own comment that I just put out there that, Apple doesn't do huge, gigantic leap, knock your socks off changes from one year to the next. I don't believe they've really done that since going from the 3GS to the 4 when they introduced a Retina display. I think and the camera system, basically, that was a real big leap in technology and advancement. But since then, year over year, there hasn't been a ton of, there hasn't been one time where somebody could look at the new phone and say, holy cow, what is this? That's just not how Apple rolls. They just don't play that way. They make improvements every year. They've never gone backwards, in my opinion. And to my knowledge, they've never made one worse than the year before. It's always been better in some way, whether it's a new feature, hardware wise, or they're always doing something software with the iOS. But so people shouldn't expect a major, massive change from one year to the next when it comes to these things. And now I don't even remember where I was going with this, but
I'm just glad they don't have foldable phones.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's one of the rumors that's out there, is that they're working on a foldable phone.
I'm sure they're testing in a lab somewhere. Because I think Apple tests everything in a lab somewhere. Given that Samsung is like $1,700-$1,800 for a foldable phone, that's just doesn't match. Nah, I don't see Apple doing it.
Yeah.
But and I don't need the fake moons and all that stuff. No. I don't need that stuff. And
yeah, exactly.
As you know, Greg, I'm new to photography, and photography for me has been an iPhone. So I'm looking to improve my photography as opposed to any more gimmicks. I just want to get better at taking pictures.
Yeah, for sure. When Steve Jobs died, they had on the tables in Cupertino, I think I read somewhere there was 3 generations of iPhones sitting there in the works. So here we are in 2024. You can bet your lunch they're going to have probably the next 2 or 3 iterations sitting there being worked on in some way, shape, or form. They have to, because the stuff we're talking about today was done and dusted back 4 months ago, because they probably started mass production in June or July at the latest, because they're going to have millions of them to be rolling out on September 20th.
I'm sure they had prototypes out in January. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And even at the announcement, Tim Cook had the Apple Watch 10 on his wrist, and I knew it was something different because it was much thinner than anything else, and that was before they even announced it. He's standing there with that Apple Watch 10 on his wrist. Even Craig Federighi said, not this year at WWDC, but last year, or maybe it was the year before, talking about what's coming up in the iOS. He says, well, we've been living on it for months. So,
Right.
They have to be so far, ahead of the game with all this stuff in order to have it out when they say they're going to have it out.
I'm still living in the past.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
They're living in the future. I'm still living in the past.
Well, actually, Dale in the chat, he's in the future. He's in Australia.
That's true.
So I'll have to bug the heck out of you, Dwight, to see if you're going to actually upgrade or not. But like you, I went to the Apple Store and I queued up a 16 Pro Max in that color there behind me.
The desert.
You went for that one.
The Desert Titanium.
Desert dust.
Yeah.
And the way Apple gets you, Greg, is if I keep this phone, I pay the same amount to pay it off over the next year. So you can get a new loan and it's the same. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm probably going to do it.
Yeah.
It's my vice. It's my number one hobby. Well, editing's becoming a hobby, but
well, you know what? I'm the
thing.
same way. I don't drink. I don't smoke. And around here, there's a lot of hunting, fishing, golfing, hockey playing guys I work with do all that stuff. And I'll bet you they spend more in a year on their fun than I do on my fun. This is what I do for fun. This is my enjoyment in life. But also, I do this podcast where we got to talk about this stuff. And I didn't upgrade every year, but in the last 2 years, I went from the 12 Pro Max to the 14 Pro Max, then I got the 15, and I'm going to get the 16 Pro Max. And because one of these days I'm going to retire and I'm not going to be able to do any of this. Like upgrade, I'll still be able to do the podcast, but I won't be able to upgrade like this every year. So I thought, you know what? While I'm still working, I'm gonna do it. So, and as far as accessories go, like I just ordered the see-through case, the one like you had in your phone, Dave, your old 13.
Okay, yeah.
And just because I want to show off the color, I don't want like I've got this nice blue phone covered with a black case, and it's not, nobody can see what color it is or anything, but I really like this desert.
I have the
titanium.
same one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I really like the Desert Titanium. I think it's a really cool color. I love earth tones, that sort of thing. And I am actually keeping the 15 Pro Max this time.
Nice.
My wife is happy with her 12. The Max is too big, so I'm going to be able to use lenses and stuff that I already have and cases that I already have for the 15 Pro if I want to do macro and stuff like that. It's still a great camera, but so with the 16 Pro, it's just going to be no lens attachments unless these companies come out with a case that works with it, with the camera button and all that stuff. But it's not a priority to get all that stuff. So, that tax that you mentioned, Dwight, it's going to be hopefully kept to a minimum for me for that. But
and you can get external clips for most of your lenses too, if you need.
You know what? I've tried them, and I just don't like them. They just don't keep the camera aligned over the, like they don't keep the lens aligned over the camera as well as a case does when you can actually attach it.
Moment's pretty good because they register off the bump, so it's all pretty dimensionally accurate. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But you have to stay on the forefront, Greg, right? You're on the leading edge with this podcast. So that's
I have to stay cutting edge, yes.
There it is right there.
It's what I do. It's who I am.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have any other hobbies, so there you go. So I'm looking forward to trying some Astro stuff, and I have aspirations of making a short film of some kind. I don't know what, but it'll be nice to have two different camera angles. And Joe, maybe I can pick your brain on some of this video stuff. And it's just something that I've been wanting to do for years now, and just never done it. So it'll be interesting. But anyway, I think we've covered everything. Unless there's something anybody else wants to bring up that they saw today that we maybe didn't mention.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Well, I'm glad you can make it, and Joe, you too. Thanks for being here and giving some insight and some input. And I'll dig up your Instagram accounts to put them in the show notes so people can see what you've been doing. And Joe, I guess you haven't really done anything on Instagram, have
you? Not at all.
Have you got
nice meeting you, Joe and Dave.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you, Dwight.
Oh, yeah.
So Dwight's going to be on again, probably either on the next episode or the one after. I think it's the one after that I kind of told you last time. That's the one that we're going to have you on. On the next show, I'm hoping to have an interview with a guy by the name of Christian Sheehan. Now, the thing is he's in Tokyo. And he said he might be able to do it at a regular recording time because if he has to book time off work, he could do that. But he makes a camera app called Fig, and it's just in beta, and it only works on iOS 18 beta. So I've been playing around with it, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
We can't get access to that yet, right, Greg? No.
I have 17.
To iOS 18.
The Fig app.
No, not unless you're on the 18 beta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you were on iOS 18 beta, I can send you a link, or I can get a hold of him, and he can give you a link to put it in test flight. One little thing I'll mention that this app can do, and that is you can shoot a JPEG that's like process 0. A single shot, no processing, but end up with a JPEG. Just like Halide puts out with their, with Halide, you have to shoot the RAW, take it into Image Lab, the Image Lab portion of the viewer right in the Halide app, hit the little Image Lab button, which is the little plus minus button, and then you can adjust your exposure and then export it, or you can just export it as it is. But that's what, like Fig, the Fig camera app can do that as you shoot. So I thought that was pretty cool. But it's a very customizable camera app as well. So look forward to that. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to have him on, but hopefully it's at our regular recording time, and we'll just take it from there. But then the one after that, Dwight, I think is the one where we got you booked in. So okay. We're going to talk to you, Dwight, about your editing and all that stuff, and how you go about doing your iPhone photography, because I think it's pretty interesting. Like we've talked about it before, and I think it's well worth having a show, and especially the video part of it, because we're going to get you to screen share some stuff. And when we're talking on the audio, we'll have to kind of give people a really good idea of what you're doing, but we'll definitely refer them to the YouTube video. So
Yeah, just a precursor of, I've essentially moved from mobile editing to 100% desktop. And it'll be a little bit about my workflow and my approach to editing. I cannot do global adjustments anymore. I work within specific tonal ranges and light ranges. So, it's been quite a journey. I love it.
I think it's going to be very interesting. Very interesting. So,
and we can touch a little bit on some of the art I've done, because I do the photo manipulation as well. If you want to go down that path,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it should be fun. All right, well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Dave, glad you enjoyed the game, and it wasn't too bad waiting around for you. Everybody's probably getting a little tired, but here we are. There's still.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone. In chat and on the stream, pushing back till 11. I'm starting to run out of steam myself here.
Yeah, it'd be a long day for you.
Yeah.
Especially, driving in, sitting at the game, driving home. But kind of glad we waited around because we've all had
appreciate
good input and stuff. So,
and I figure I might as well add this in. An inside reference for those who may get the joke, but they do mention that Siri has superpowers, and I'm assuming those superpowers will be the ability to get whatever I say wrong even better and easier than they already do.
I think the improvement with Siri is to make Mark more angry. So
there's a question.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's a question there, Greg. Real quick, how's an iPhone 15 Pro Max 0 processing photo? Is it still a 48 megapixel photo or 12? That's through the Halide app that we're talking about. You take a raw photo, which is 12 megapixel. I think it's Bayer, right? And then when you save it out, it's a 12. You save it out from the raw to a 12 megapixel JPEG or height. So it's not a 48 megapixel photo.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The only way you can get a 48 megapixel shot is either JPEG or ProRAW. You just cannot get a bare raw image like with zero processing done on it in anything other than a 12 megapixel. So it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. I don't know why. Technically, I really don't know why, but guess we're stuck with 12 on that. Okay. So, all right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. And thanks, everybody, for watching. I think we had up to 7 people at one time. And guess we'll see everybody on the next one.
Sounds good. Take care, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.